Win big with new DRF All Access past performances. With one best-in-class product, you now get all three past performance formats. Go to DRF.com and use coupon code ONEFREEPP for a free single card today.
Dan Illman and Mike for Kentucky Derby Prep Recap, taking a look back at the first major Kentucky Derby Prep around 2 turns at Gulfstream Park this winter. It's the Grade 3 Holy Bull, the return of the 2-year-old champion, Fierceness. And we break from the gate. Fierceness is 1-5. It's the Rapoli Silks on the number 7. He gets bumped a little bit coming out of the gate, Mike. John Velasquez has to use him right now to get into the clear.
Yeah, not a great start for this horse. He did get bumped between horses. He has to be asked to go forward. He's 4 to 3 wide around the first turn. The problem with getting too caught up in that, Dan, is his pace is slow. Yeah. So he didn't have to work that hard to get right up on top of the leaders here. And from this point on, this is where you want Fierceness to be.
Especially at a short price. It's never ideal being wide off of a slow pace, but when you're 1-5 and you're just tracking, you're expecting this horse to show at least some sort of a punch. Meanwhile, Hades and Paco Lopez took advantage of the inside post, and they are walking 25 seconds flat for the opening quarter. They'll go 50-2 for the half. Fierceness seems to be traveling well right now.
Yeah, he's just sitting right up on top of a slow pace here, Dan. Again, this is exactly where you want him to be, even after a little bit of a troubled start. Hades certainly had all the best of it here, Dan. He broke running. He got right to the lead, had an easy run around the first turn with nobody near him. But now he's under pressure from Fierceness, very gamely responding, though.
Absolutely right. This is the point of the race, I think, where many thought that Fierceness would simply just take over and go on with it. And you saw he put a neck in front of Hades. But Hades, even though he's being ridden hard, he is fighting back. And Fierceness right now has got to find a little something extra. And when they turn into the stretch, that extra is just not there. Hades turns back the 2-year-old champion, and the one he's got to worry about is Domestic Product, who's angling off a good trip from the inside.
Yeah, I mean, you knew Fierceness was in trouble around that final turn when he couldn't. They wanted to take over the race there. They couldn't do it. You knew he was in big trouble. To Hades' credit, he fights on. Domestic Product, really good trip, really good ride. Looked like he had all the momentum through the stretch. He doesn't even make it close at the end.
Hades for Joe Orsino and Paco Lopez, basically gate to wire at 9-1. This was a pretty impressive performance. We'll talk about him in a bit, but we have to talk about Fierceness because he went from hero to zero in 1:46 and 7 seconds. A lot of fans are off the Fierceness bandwagon. Is it too early to do so?
Yeah, it's too early, but now there are serious questions surrounding this horse who we've seen 4 times, Dan. In 2 of those starts, he looked really good. And in 2 of those starts, he looked terrible. And that includes this one. And I know he had trouble at the start and he was off the layoff and he was on the outside the entire way. This was not a good performance. And then when you had that champagne from last year staring you in the face. And I know it was on a sloppy track and he didn't break great that day either, but he's got 2 stinkers now.
Otello didn't run very well either. He was 5-1 in this race. And again, it was a situation where maybe he just didn't have a lot of pace to run at. I would have liked to have seen him do some running.
He was bad in this race. Another horse who did get bumped at the start, but after that, he was in a perfectly good position in behind horses, up close, up the backstretch. He didn't run at all again.
Domestic Product was coming out of the Remsen, I believe, for Chad, and that was a day where he kind of wanted to be up close to the pace. All in all, he flattened out at the end, maybe had an excuse. In this race, he showed good tactical speed. It was a very nice trip. Maybe the slow fractions worked against him in the fact that Hades got the jump on him, turning into that short stretch. I think Chad Brown has to be heartened by this performance, though, from Domestic Product, and is hoping maybe he can squeeze another couple lengths out of him in the next few months.
I'll agree with that. I think there's something there with this horse. There's nothing wrong with this performance. He's one of those horses now, especially in his last 2 starts. You just maybe want to see him get himself a little more settled early. He's in behind horses. He keeps right up, but man, is he under a big pull in there, almost like he's expending a little bit too much energy. He got clear here. He ran. He just couldn't get to Hades. I thought it was an okay performance. This horse has a little bit of talent.
Inveigled at 18-1 was up close to the pace. He was the first one to back out of it when Fierceness and Hades went on with it, entering the second turn. I think this horse could be a likable sort of grade 2, grade 3, 7 furlong miler type. I'm just not sure 2 turns is going to be his forte.
Yeah, maybe the distance isn't what he wants, and this kind of competition probably isn't what he wants either, Dan. He just wasn't good enough in here.
Let's take a closer look at Hades. He's a 3-year-old gelding by first crop sire Awesome Slew, who was a graded stakes winner around 2 turns. He's a half-brother to Devious Dame, a stakes-winning dirt sprinter. He sold for $130,000 as an April 2-year-old in training. Joe Orsino, of course, trained Red Bullet to win the Preakness Lothos many years ago. This is an interesting pedigree, Mike, because it combines speed and stamina. The Dam's a half to a stakes winner at a mile and 3/8 on the turf, another stakes winner at a mile and 1/8. And then you go further back in the family, you got some good dirt milers and sprinters like Discreet Cat and Discreetly Mine.
Oh yeah, some really, really big horses. If you go back a generation or two, so that's a good thing for this horse. I don't know. We'll see. He's still, to me, it's still questionable how far he wants to go, I guess. But man, all three of his races to this point are really good. We talked when we did the stakes preview, Dan, we talked about his allowance win going 7-2 starts back, where he just sprinted home in there with a really good finish. I think you have to like the way that he finished this race off too. I mean, he stayed pretty well to the end, even off of a slow pace.
Hades earned a 90 Beyer speed figure in this race, pairing up the top. He earned 2 starts back when beating that race that Mike mentioned, the first level Florida bred allowance. 3 starts, 3 wins at distances ranging from 5.5 to a mile and a 16th. Have to like his early speed, and it looks like we'll see him next in the Florida Derby. We take a look at the prices for the Holy Bull. Hades saved ground every step. Good trip, good ride. $20.40 to win. Domestic product gets up for second at a big price for a Chad Brown train runner. He paid $13.60 to place. Fierceness, 2-year-old champion, disappointed. He's going to have to get back on track. We'll see if Todd runs him in the Florida Derby. But Hades undefeated thus far.